barbecues. Yeah!
Tulsa's Greenwood district in early 1921 occupied about 40 square blocks of real estate in the city's northwest corner. The district's eponymous avenue ran for more than a mile through the community's heart, the central artery of its livelihood and the place where inhabitants went to see each other and be seen. There and on adjacent streets, they also accessed the services of doctors. The district had 15, dentists, realtors, and lawyers. In early 1921, you could spend an entire day in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, without once leaving its central thoroughfare, Greenwood Avenue. You might start with breakfast at Lily Johnson's Liberty Cafe before heading to Elliott & Hooker's at 124 North Greenwood to buy a new suit or dress. If, say, the sleeve were too long, you could stop at HLBR's tailor shop across the street at 105 North Greenwood before picking up a prescription down the way at the Economy Drug Company. By then it was probably time for another meal, maybe a plate of barbecue eaten while perusing the pages of one of Greenwood's two newspapers, the Tulsa Star or Oklahoma Sun. Playing pool at one of several billiard halls was an enjoyable afternoon pastime, or, if glamour was more the order of the day, a photo shoot at A.S. Newkirk's photography studio could be arranged. After dinner at Doc's Beanery, the house specialty, smothered steak with rice and brown gravy. You could take in a silent film accompanied by live piano at the 750-seat Dreamland Theater. Finally, a long and satisfying day would come to a close at 301 North Greenwood, when your head came to rest on a well-fluffed pillow in one of the Stratford Hotel's 54 rooms. O.W. Gurley, 1867 through 1935, was once one of the wealthiest black men and a founder of the Greenwood district in Tulsa, Oklahoma, known as Black Wallstreet. A.J. Smitherman, 1883 through 1961, newspaper editor and publisher of the Tulsa Star, was the spirit of the Black Wall Street of America in his continuous and fearless denunciations against Jim Crow. He would be accused of fomenting and inciting the 1921 race war in Tulsa. Indicted, he escaped law enforcement officials and lynch mobs and never returned to Tulsa. His sense of pride had educated his community to the need to resist racial inequality. John the Baptist, J.B. Stratford, 1861 through 1935, was from Versailles, Kentucky, the son of Julius Caesar, J.C., an enslaved man. He was a community activist and a prominent black businessman, namely, the proud owner of Greenwood's infamous Stratford Hotel. John and Lola Williams were among the first residents in Greenwood, Tulsa. John's knack for working with machines was in high demand. His job at the Thompson Ice Cream Company running steam-powered chilling equipment in 1909 paid so well, his family bought the first car in Greenwood. Lola Williams started a confectionery after she left her teaching career. The Williams Confectionery was Lola's pride and joy. Her shop immediately became a favorite among youths and young couples of all races. The couple made a lot of money, eventually building a movie theater called the Dreamland in June 1913, with a seating capacity of 750 people. Simon Berry, 1890 through 1941, an extraordinary visionary, arrived in Tulsa in 1915. He organized the first transportation system, Berry's Jitney Service, for North Tulsa. The Black Wall Street entrepreneur operated the Jitney service with pickup and drop points in well-populated locations throughout the black community. An experienced pilot, partnering with J.L. Northington, a leading building contractor, Berry owned what might have been the first and only black airline service in the nation, a charter service used primarily by wealthy oil barons to visit their leases in surrounding counties. He was Tulsa's largest employer of blacks with a full maintenance crew operating his bus and airplane garage. Dr. Jackson, 1879 through 1921, graduated from Meharry Medical College in Nashville, then trained as a surgeon in Memphis, Tennessee. He was recognized for his important work, returning to Tulsa as a specialist in chronic disease and surgery for women. The Mayo brothers found his work nothing short of remarkable. Then he spent some time training at the Mayo Clinic, treating infectious diseases like diphtheria and scarlet fever right in the middle of the Spanish influenza of 1918. Mabel Little, 1896 through 2001. She and her husband opened a 3-room shotgun house which held her husband's shoe shine business and her very own beauty shop. By 1918, Mabel received a certification from Madam C.J. Walker's beauty course, and her company was booming. By the middle of May 1921, Mabel and her husband built and furnished a brand new 5-bedroom home, owned 2 rental houses, and bought a Model T Ford. After her husband's death in 1927, Mabel continued to raise their 11 adopted children, rebuilt her salon, and immersed herself in the life of the church, eventually fulfilling her lifelong dream, graduating from Langston University at 94 years old. Barney Cleaver, 1867 through 1932, was the first African-American police officer for the Tulsa Police Department, and the first African-American deputy sheriff for the Tulsa County Sheriff Office. Deputy Cleaver was described as honest and fearless, and one of the most respected officers in Tulsa County. Mary E. Jones Parrish, 1892 through 1972, was an African-American teacher and journalist. She ran a typing school in the Black Business District and taught typing and shorthand at the all-black Hunton branch of the YMCA. She is also known for chronicling the Tulsa Massacre.
So, in Black Wall Street, what became Black Wall Street, which is a term that was coined by Booker T. Washington, he came to Greenwood on his way to Muskogee, and he named this area Negro Wall Street, and the name just took. Eventually, it evolved into Black Wall Street. So the question most people ask is, how did that even become a terminology? Like, what was the significance behind it? How did it generate such a name like Black Wall Street? Well, it's important to understand what it took to build a Black Wall Street, so to build a community that could be identified as such. One thing people need to know is Greenwood was not built on capitalism. Greenwood was built on cooperative economics, where people pulled their resources together. People had that pay it forward attitude of every business you create should have an apprenticeship, right? So it's that idea of longevity and sustainability. So during this period in the early 20th century, what you have to understand is Greenwood was literally Wakanda and oil was vibranium, right? And you had this economic resource center, and I call it a center because it was really a center of resources, whether it be oil, agriculture, or livestock, right? Those were the 3 primary ways that people generated wealth in the district. But most importantly, people owned land. So Greenwood represented the brilliance, the entrepreneurship, the vision, the hope, the trust, the faith in each other, and the idea of with that type of unity, with that type of collective thought, with that type of ownership, we can do absolutely anything. I mean, think about what it was called. The area was called Dreamland, the Promised Land. It's something significant behind that. What are they promising? They're promising opportunity. They're promising growth because this is Indian territory, right? And so long before Jim Crow was even thought of, we had already built 35 black towns in the state of Oklahoma. So once we built and developed Greenwood, we had already mastered the expertise of development, infrastructure, municipalities, right? All these things were in place, and we had a functional, thriving community that was built on that attitude. The question is often asked, how do we reignite the legacy and the history of Greenwood? Like, how do we make it no longer just history? The past has to become useful. So what do we learn from all these experiences, right? We lost Greenwood twice, not just once, but twice. So Greenwood was rebuilt. It was rebuilt after the massacre. In 4 years, we rebuilt the whole 85% of the district. By 1952, we were in our renaissance. The rebuilding, everything went great. It's also important to note that we also survived the Great Depression. So through that, we went through a massacre, built through the Great Depression, and then we thrived in the 50s and said, look, we have this enterprising community that is really doing amazing work. Then you had the suffering of the highway programs that went through every city in America. Every black city in America has a highway that went straight through its commercial district. So we have to, in order to avoid that and recreate this ideal Greenwood, number one, we're going to have to engage in politics. We got to understand how land development takes place. We got to understand how different cities own properties and how they manage or mismanage property. And we got to understand, most importantly, blight, intentional blight, and what the consequences are for that. Once we understand the mechanisms that really affect our ability to grow and to move forward, what we do is we put ourselves in a position to be able to actually generate a sustainable community. Because we're saying, okay, we know how we lost sustainability. And we recollect it, we remember it, right? Because we have to learn to teach the history, the lesson of history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that we can actually deconstruct the confusion, so that our future generations can say, okay, we need to own land. We can't just go into places and say, I'm gonna rent that property. Then you flex it on social media or whatever else as if you actually have ownership, right? So when I look at my business, I say my business is descendant owned, black operated. I don't get grant money. I don't desire grant money. I want total sustainability and ownership. We should all want that, because then what that does, that gives me the power to say, I can hire who I want to hire. I can teach the way I want to teach, the way it's needed, right? So the restrictions and the boundaries have disappeared. We have to be in a position to where no matter where you go in the United States, if a person has an opportunity to purchase land, there should be an investor who says, now that we own this, we can actually develop it the way we want to develop it and put everything on it that we need. You look at this monument that I'm standing behind, and what you have is not the infrastructure for a community or neighborhood. You have an entire city within a city. We can replicate those things, but we got to understand ownership. Most people are chasing the bag. In Greenwood, we chase the bank. That is very significant to think about, because what you're doing is you're minimalizing your possibilities, right? That's all it is, the minimization of possibilities, because we become stifled by the traumas of the past, which are things we have to acknowledge and get past, so we can understand, why do we keep recycling the same problems? Why do we keep going to the same people for remedy? It will never work. So we got to break out of those cycles, think outside the box, and do something so different, so unique, so profound, which we've always done in history. Like, we do it for other people, we do it for other institutions. Like, you look at all of the major corporate institutions, whether it's economic, education, or otherwise, our greatest minds are there, because we're not creating institutions that will cultivate and basically accommodate the brilliance of our people. We have to be able to do that and put ourselves in that position. In fact, we owe it to ourselves.
It was once said that a successful, thriving business or businesses were founded not by wants, but by needs. The needs of the Greenwood District were of survival in the United States. If you agree with the drive and the will of the pioneers of Black Wall Street, and you believe that we can and must strive for economic empowerment, then let's show support to our communities and patronize a black business 8 to 10 times a month. Let's try to keep the black dollar in the black community for longer than a day. Let me leave you with this. Let our strength in hearing no, no, no be the driving factor moving us towards our goals. Let's push to reigniting the black economy. Thanks for watching.